You're listening to Biz-Souls, the business podcast with an edge, hosted by me, Rona Lewis, and Jeffrey Hansler. Tune in for perspectives and discoveries about the changing world of business. It's time to connect to the heart, soul, and humor of how business gets done. Everybody, and welcome to Biz-Souls. I'm one of your hosts, Rona Lewis.
I'm Jeffrey Hansler, and we get to the heart and soul of business and the people that make it happen.
You were supposed to say I'm the other one of your hosts.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm the other host sometimes. Depends on whether I'm
You
here. You
ruined it. God, so much for playing. Anyway, we have an awesome guest today. We have Lisa Carlin, all the way from down under. And Lisa is I have to read this. Lisa is a strategy execution specialist, scale-up mentor, and co-founder of FutureBuilders Group, a network of organizational development specialists. She works with ambitious leaders to turbocharge their transformation and business planning. Lisa has an impressive track record, having successfully delivered or mentored clients through over 50 transformation programs with an outstanding 96% success rate. She now has a membership academy for professionals to implement business, cultural, and digital transformation programs with influence and momentum, which we'll let her chat about at the end of the program. And she also volunteers as the chair of an education not-for-profit organization. Welcome, Lisa. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Rona and Jeffrey. I'm very excited to be here.
Yes, and you're a day ahead of us. So you're ahead of us in all kinds of ways.
That's right. We'll try to catch up. I don't know if it's possible.
No, we can never catch up. She's on Sunday time. We're on Saturday time. All right. So
good.
I'm sorry, Rona.
Nope. You're up.
You're the host with the most. Okay, Lisa. So tell us a little bit about your background. What do you want to be when you grow up? Were you born in Australia, Sydney area? I mean, are you staying close to home?
Well, actually, I'm from South Africa originally. So I was born in Cape Town and grew up in the apartheid era. And I think actually a lot of what I am and the way I am, I think is because of growing up in that environment, which was a very It was a very unnatural way, I guess, for society to be. So, yeah. And I was originally interested in doing law because I quite like I like talking and, interacting with people and the persuasive kind of, persuading people to, so I thought, and influence. So I thought that would be a great career. And then when I really started thinking about it, and I spoke to a friend who was a few years older, and he said to me, do you really want to do law? Because I think you're wanting to leave the country. And I did. So I did want to leave the country because of what was going on there and the high crime rate. And so about a week before I registered for a business law degree, I changed streams and did business and finance instead, which was a bit more portable. And then, I went to go work for Accenture in Cape Town, which was an amazing experience doing computer, then called computer programming, and now they call it software engineering. And then was fortunate to move to the US, and I got a job with McKinsey, which was very exciting, and did all sorts of interesting strategy work and traveled all over the place. And then I had friends in Australia, and they kept saying, well, come and see what it's like here, because I was just about ready to go to business school then. And I came to Australia and loved it. And I've been here ever since.
Very
awesome.
Good. Was it easy to become a citizen? Did you become a citizen?
Oh, that is a whole nother story. I thought
we'll save that for another day.
Well, after arriving in the US with literally my then boyfriend, who eventually became husband and now ex-husband, he and I just literally story. Yeah, well, we had backpacks. We arrived in the US with backpacks and a business suit in them, and we stayed. And, the US is notorious for being really hard to, lots of people want to live in the US and just can't get in. So we thought, okay, well, we did, and it wasn't that hard. We both got jobs, professional jobs, and the company sponsored us. So no problem. We'll just go to Australia and we'll just see how it goes. And that was not a very clever thing to do in hindsight. But anyway, we're here.
Absolutely. Well, good. And so were you still with McKinsey when you were in Australia then?
No, I was there for just under 2 years, and then as a consultant that they call a business analyst, which you do for a few years before you do your MBA. And so they always encourage folks to go and do an MBA and come back. And so I came to Australia and I did my MBA here, which was just tremendous. And I had an amazing experience with people from all over the world. I think there were 75% of the class was from outside Australia. So it was a really interesting global group. And I then went to go, so then I'd worked for a strategy consulting firm. I'd worked for I'd done systems development. And so I became really interested in people, because I found that the strategy, we give these beautiful reports to people, to executives, and they often didn't know what to do with them. They looked good and they were inspiring, but they were just so difficult to they didn't know what to do with them, how to implement them. And with the systems that I was working on, we often saw that the value that people got we didn't then really think about designing it around the ergonomics of how people work and how they learn. And so, that was, I guess, in the 90s. And so I really became interested in human behavior and how do you unlock human behavior at scale in organizations to get more things done. So that's what took me to work for a boutique culture change consultancy. And then in 99 started my own business. And I've been doing that kind of work ever since. So running large programs of change for businesses, whether they are sales improvement or cost reduction or culture change or sales improvement, all sorts of innovative strategies. And the core of it is, how do you get people on board at scale? So that's what I was doing since 99, basically. Yeah.
So how do you get people at scale? I know it's a big question. I was kind of teasing.
It's a great question. Yeah. Great question. So I say that culture can be a prison or a playground for innovation. And culture and humans are core to it, right? So they can be a prison if you're in a really, we were talking just before about toxic environments. They can really be a prison and stop people from progress. Or they can be the most amazing playground for just getting incredible things done. And, I've worked with both, different types of organizations, a range of different cultures. And I'm happy to talk to you about some examples. And that's what makes the difference. And if you can really understand and unlock the way you work within the culture, then you can get amazing things done in any culture.
Yeah.
So in terms of unlocking the culture and working with the culture, it sounds like you're taking a slightly different approach than others in terms of working with the existing culture.
Yeah, well, that's a really interesting observation, Jeffrey, because I've read so much about culture and listened to and absorbed research, and all of it seems to be focused on how you change a culture. And that's admirable, but I know that it will take, on average, about a year in a big organization to make, a significant dent. You can see some progress after, some good progress after 6 months, but it takes a long time and it can take years. And so that's difficult to change. And considering the pressure that businesses are under at the moment, you just don't have the luxury of time. People don't want, so you need to get things done in between, before that. And so that's what got me interested in thinking about and trying to put into into words what has become very intuitive to me over the years, which is really get a sense of what the 2 or 3 key drivers of the culture are. So I try and find 3 words that describe the culture. If you talk to at least 8 people, you'll get those 3. You'll find out what those common, what the commonalities of the culture are. And after 8 people, maybe you can talk to a few more, but you're not going to learn that much more. And you guys will know that because you work in organizations. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So what do you do with the words?
You've got those words, and then you've got to think about, well, okay, well, what are my levers for working in those cultures? So I'll give you an example. On one extreme, a culture could be quite risk averse. So think of a large bureaucratic government organization or a bank where it's very process driven and very, very risk averse, right? And then you think on the other hand, so I work with smaller organizations, some of them only have 10, 20 people all the way through to, over 100,000. And so you might get some of those smaller innovative organizations, right? So I'll call them, culture of innovation or entrepreneurial even. So that's their biggest focus is to experiment and try different things, right? So those are very, very different alternatives, right? Alternative cultures. And the way you work in those cultures needs to be very, very different to get things done. So in the risk-averse culture, you need to follow due process. You need to do some pilots, some prototyping so that people will get comfortable. They're fairly conservative cultures, so you've got to build up that sense of comfort before you can really go big and make a lot of changes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, psychological safety.
Whereas,
right.
Go ahead.
That's exactly what I was going to ask the other side.
Yeah. Whereas with these more entrepreneurial cultures, they just want to go at it, and you hear, fail fast, right? That's the motto, right? Just fail fast. Go try something small and just fail fast, and then if it doesn't work, you pivot and you do something else. And that's exactly right. So, I've got one organization that I work with and I mentor the CEO. And so I use the word mentoring rather than coaching because my work's very advice-based rather than coaching, which just helps people find their own answers. And so I mentor the CEO and, trying different things around the product. And you just sort of see the results, and the results are flat, and customers aren't buying it, and we just know there's just not something unique enough, and it's just a bit of a me too. And so we've got another idea, and we work on that idea, and the client bounces the ideas off me, and I give them some sort of suggestions, and we I'm like a bit of an outsourced strategist, and then we got the idea, let's go build it. And they'll build an MVP, a minimum viable product, and it's out there, and we're testing it. And whereas in a large organization, risk averse, no, it would be none of that, right? We'd have to really prove the concept on a very small scale first. So quite a different approach. So, and if you you go.
No, you
finish your thought, Lisa.
Yeah. Well, if you can figure out if you can identify the culture correctly, and that's why I say 3 words, right? Because there's lots of words you can use to describe culture, and we use all sorts of instruments like the human synergistics tools, and that will give you, it can give you a 30-page report if you want on the culture and the different styles. But if you really boil it down to the top 2 or 3 key things that make the difference in that particular culture, then you've got something workable. Right. And then you can really think about, okay, so how do I modify the approach? And I can talk to you more because it's more than one dimension of the approach that you need to modify. If you'd like to talk more about it.
Well, sure. What are the surprises in organizational culture? I mean, if it was easy, anybody could do it. And what are the stats? 70% of organizational change fail, initiatives fail. And, 50% of mergers fail to meet their objectives, things like that.
That's it. Exactly. And that's, that's why I'm so passionate about this, because I know it works. I know there's a 96% success rate. And I know that when you can modify the approach to capture people's imagination, then, then the sky's the limit. Can I give you an example of what I mean?
Yeah, that'd be great.
So one example is a professional service firm, and these firms are, they're partnerships, and they tend to be run on the thing that characterizes them the most is that they're very siloed. So each partner and their teams and their groups of partners in the different practice areas are almost like running mini businesses or franchises almost, right? And this is the case even in partnerships of thousands of people, which this one was. And we had this, they had the strategy around a client experience and client service and improving it and being able to differentiate their strategy based on the service they provide to their clients. And as a core project team, so I ran this as a program manager a number of years ago. As a core team, we only had 8 or 9 of us working on with all the different people. And it's a very big organization, and we can't obviously have a strategy that's customized to each area. So what we did was we involved the different practice teams in coming up with the ideas, and through facilitated discussions, rather than presenting a strategy to them. And that's what made all the difference.
So you got them to engage, them to come up with the ideas, them
exactly.
to right. Exactly. So it was their idea,
right? And takes the pressure off you too.
Yeah, and well, surprise, the ideas across the different areas were not that different, right? But it had their own words and their own nuances. So we were able to, with the hypothesis we had in mind of what the changes were going to be, we were able to still have a few projects for everybody, right? But we used their words, and they were driving it for their areas, and so they felt in control, and that made all the difference. We had when we celebrated the end of the project, it was so successful that the client got they got several recognition and awards, not only in the industry, but also across all business, like technology awards that would cut across all different businesses. And professional service firms aren't typically, leading in technology necessarily across all different organizations, but they did. And when we celebrated success, we had 120 people on the video conference across all different countries and offices, because those were the people that felt they were involved. 120 people on the project. They thought that they felt like their jobs were part of their job was absolutely essential, was working on that project.
Which is brilliant, because anyone who puts any amount of effort into something big wants to feel that sense of belonging. So it's a great way to do it.
But what's really special, so I'll just add one more point before you go.
Yeah.
What's really special is in partnerships, professional service partnerships, you're selling time, and people do not have time to waste on non-billable activities. But yet, so they were part of their job, and they thought that a key part of their job was working on this project and on the projects that we had. And so that was so exciting.
Yeah.
It was so exciting because they were just motivated. Go ahead, Rona.
So with that amazing 96% rate, what extraordinary circumstances were that was that 4% in that, were they extreme? Were they, how was that possible? Because obviously, this program stuff works.
Thank you for that question. Each one has a unique story. The one that was the most upsetting for me, that gave me nightmares for years, was when I was the third program manager to come in and try and develop a business model for this organization, this division that was losing money. And I knew there were a whole lot of problems, and that they'd got rid of 2 program managers. They had another consulting firm that they'd got rid of, and they'd had another consulting firm involved. It had all the signs that it was going to be a problem. And it was the steering committee was an absolute nightmare. Nobody got on. I had more conversations outside meetings than I did within the meetings to try and get people to agree. Nobody agreed. The CEO didn't get involved in this at all, and he should have. And what happened was the whole project, not only did the whole project, did they shut it all down, they fired the project sponsor, who was just not strong enough to have gravitas with the rest of his colleagues. The two amazing stars that they had working on the program resigned, and so the organization lost them because they were so unhappy the way it was managed. Every single executive on that executive committee, which were also on our steering committee, they all were let go except for one, and within 6 months of the project, and also within 6 months after that, the CEO resigned.
It sounds like there are a lot more issues than you could handle.
There were, and but you know, Rona, when you're running a program, I really beat myself up about it afterwards, because I thought, well, there were things that I still could have done, because I saw what was happening, and I saw that the program sponsor wasn't strong enough to cut through the disagreements, that everybody was sort of focused on their patch in all these steering committees, and I should have gone to the CEO and had that conversation with him.
Well, and I think sometimes people just don't want to hear it.
True,
that they have to change,
Exactly, that is true, but I didn't try. And the reason I didn't try is because I didn't have the confidence to go to the CEO, who I didn't know that well, wasn't involved. And it was earlier on in my career. And I think as a young woman working in very male-dominated environments, it sometimes just it made it too hard for me, and I just felt like people weren't going to listen. But I still should have done that, and I know that if I could have done that and got him involved, or the one person that was left on that executive team who was actually fabulous, who I did know, that one person that wasn't fired. I suppose in hindsight, I don't know, but you do beat yourself up about it, and I do.
And if you flip it, it's like, how awesome is it that you learned from your failure, so you know that you're never going to do that again, So I think everyone needs lessons like that, so you have become a better consultant because of it,
So yeah, I think so.
Absolutely.
Sorry,
Jeffrey.
I think it's always about thinking about what we can do, where our own personal, circle of influence is. Yeah.
Go ahead, Jeffrey.
When you were talking about it at first, I thought it was trouble at the top. Excuse me. Still fighting just over a cold or something. Throat, it gets scratchy all of a sudden. So when you're talking about it, it sounded like it was trouble at the top. The CEO was the one that didn't want to change. And then the CEO got fired. Was that from the board?
Yeah. I mean, he first fired the executive sponsor of the program, and then he himself was fired afterwards, because this division was losing a lot of money and would have pulled down the performance of the whole business. And they'd given it 3 tries. So I think they ran out of patience. Yeah.
I'm sure you kept in touch with them or kept them in your radar. So did they improve afterwards?
Yeah, but took a long time. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Can't win them all.
Right.
You can't win them all. And I think when you're an innovator in a business, sort of the big lesson for me, if you like, coming out of that is that where you can see the problems, you have a duty to speak up. And even if that is not listened to properly, and it's not received well, at least you've done it, and now I know, and that and so I always say to people, the confidence that they have in what they're doing to drive innovation is almost more important than anything else, because if you have the confidence, you can try different things and really, and keep and persistence, I suppose, is part of it as well. Yeah, to keep driving it through. So now when I have this tool on my website, which is a free tool. So folks go to futurebuildersgroup.com and look towards the bottom of the page. There's a diagnostic for transformation, and you answer some questions and you get an answer back. And around the percentage scores in different areas. And it's all based on your self-assessment of your confidence. So confidence around understanding the culture, knowing how to work with stakeholders, all the way through to governance matters, being able to address issues with leadership, all of those aspects of designing and implementing a program. And so,
excellent. Well done.
Yeah.
So with sorry, Jeffrey, go ahead.
Just real quick, you said we. So obviously you work with other people. Do you come together as the project's needed or the people are needed?
Yeah, look, it's an interesting organization. We formed FutureBuilders Group 10 years ago. And what it is, it's a marketing banner, if you like. It's an umbrella group for a whole lot of independent organizational development and strategy execution consultants. So we were all working independently, and we got a bit, lonely, wanted to kind of come together and share ideas. And we did, but under more of a sort of a little bit closer than just, casual. And so that's when we formed the FutureBuilders Group. And so it's really good fun. And we've got some folks that work with us in the US, and the rest of the team are in Australia. And so we get to work on some fabulous international projects too, which we wouldn't necessarily hear about if we were only based in Australia.
Excellent.
That's great. That's great. So with all your years of experience and all different kinds of industries, what do you see? Do you think there are things that many consultants are missing in the way they do their jobs and, make mistakes, things like that?
Oh, I've seen so much of that, Rona, and I could spend another whole podcast and I'll come back and talk about it.
Give me your three biggest ones. Give me your three biggest ones.
Okay. So, I see a lot of strategy that other consulting firms have done and other independents have done. Uh-huh. And they, the clients don't know how to implement it because they are, there's so many things that they have, so many models, so many frameworks, so much information, and it's not clear. It's like you've just said, give me three things. Why don't they just give the client three things? Do these three things. Okay, so that's really important. Second of all, the understanding the culture. There are a lot of consultants out there working in organizations where they don't truly think about how they are designing the execution architecture of what they're doing. Jeffrey, I can just see you smiling there because I think you've seen it.
Well, not only do I know, it was one of the first experiences I had. This executive came in, and it was about your former employer, McKinsey. Yeah, we pay him $1 million. They drop a report on the desk, and you look around and go, thanks. What do we do with it? So anyway, that's why. So when you're talking, I'm going, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and I've gone into some of those clients, where I've seen they've got three different consultants' reports from three different consultancies saying the same thing at different points in time.
Right.
And they've still done nothing with them.
Right.
So, strategy needs to be doable. And then the other thing I would say is, there's so many. I think because we're in such a complex environment, it feels sometimes like we've all got some of the, if you think of a jigsaw puzzle, we've all got some of the pieces. So, Jeffrey might have the blue and green pieces, and Rona might have the blue and yellow pieces, and I might. And we see we see things through the perspective of our training and our background and the problems that we've seen before. And when you can have a diverse project team or a strategy execution team who represents all different perspectives, then you can truly see the whole puzzle. And so that is what I'm so passionate about. People don't understand the culture, and they don't understand the business problem, and they don't understand project architecture, and they don't understand change altogether. They can't see it all together. They can see their parts. So because we've all become so super specialized. So in order to solve a very complex problem, we need to bring together multiple diverse perspectives to do that. So I'd encourage consultants that work independently, particularly, to make sure that they partner with the right people. So, what's that saying about, when you carry a hammer, every problem's a nail?
Right, exactly. Well, and it sounds like you're very aware of that, and you've got a very elegant solution for it, bringing in people with different perspectives and red and green. Is that what Rona was?
No, I was blue and yellow.
Okay, very good. So we're getting down tips for businesses or tips for consultants, and
actually, I think it would be really interesting to hear your advice for companies on how to pick a consultant.
well, there you go.
Right. Gosh, what a great question.
Every so often I throw them in.
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. When people are really good about behavioral interviewing, so they will ask for experience of, when were you in a situation like, and they often will hire consultants in the same way that they hire permanent staff, right? Which is good to ask those sorts of questions. And I've put together lots of project teams for clients, and done that with my clients, and I can see, those questions are generally asked. What they tend to do less is really test the problem-solving skills of the people that they're hiring. And they, particularly where they land up with a pyramid of experience with, one person who's maybe very experienced, who's going to handle the whole kind of be the partner of the relationship partner, or manage the engagement partner. And sometimes they're different people too, and then the rest of the team, and the profile of skills and abilities can drop off quite significantly when there's a team. So I would make sure I know who are the people that are going to be mostly on the project and on the ground, and I would test that their problem-solving skills are good. And you can test that through giving them a problem and seeing how they handle it. And it's really quick and it's easy. And that way, that the people that you're going to interact with on a day-to-day basis can see as many of those pieces of the puzzle as possible, or just not make that assumption that, so somebody, like Rona might like the red and yellow pieces or whatever they were, and that's fine, because that's the specialty we want, right? But then Rona may also have the ability to take a step back and recognize, well, that's a purple piece, and Jeffrey's the specialist in that purple piece, and that purple piece is really important because we need that to see the picture. So those are the and so by asking the questions around complex problems and how people will solve them, the actual consultants doing the job, I think the client will then, they've got a better chance of getting the right outcome.
There you go.
Excellent. And how do people get? Oh, I'm sorry. Do you have another question, Rona?
No, I was just going to ask that, and then if you want to talk a little, if you want to talk about your, you have a new membership academy, and then tell people how they can get in touch with you.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for asking. I'm very excited that this year we've put together the tools and templates and the skills and the skills development material for all the different aspects of developing and implementing complex problems, change, transformation, strategy execution, digital transformation. And I use all of those words because they're all relevant, right? Any kind of innovation at scale. So we've got playbooks on those, and that's part of the membership. And really, and we run Zoom sessions and group coaching sessions, so people can learn not only from me as the group leader, but also from other people in the community, and hear those war stories, and then hear, well, what do you do in a scenario like this, and what would you do, and get that input from everybody else. So it's a forum to learn, to get fresh ideas, and support other people and get support for people doing this kind of work. There are lots of different communities around the world that do things like, entrepreneurs or, marketing leaders or specialists in chartered accountants. But because strategy execution is such a multidisciplinary skill, there's not many opportunities for people to learn from others that are handling these kinds of problems. So that is what Turbocharge Your Transformation is all about. I'd love people to Google those 3 words, Turbocharge Your Transformation, and they'll find out everything about our membership. And you can also go to our FutureBuildersGroup.com site as well.
Very, very good. And since you're internationally, WhatsApp works really well for you, or do you use what was the other one? Skype?
Zoom, mostly Zoom. Zoom. Yeah, Zoom is the preferred platform for our sessions. We run sessions twice a month. We do a masterclass every month, 1 hour express, and we do a 1 hour group coaching session. And they're all at times that will suit the folks in the US and Canada and South America. So I hope to see many of your audience joining us. It'll be fantastic.
It's been fantastic. It's been great. I know you just scratched the surface with all those years of knowledge and everything else, and I love your perspectives on things.
Thank you, Jeffrey. It's been so lovely talking with you and Rona. Lovely, both of you. Asked such good questions.
Rona, were you saying something, or just I can't hear you?
Because I hit my mute button because my dog was barking. Sorry about that.
I thought you were just doing the ventriloquist thing.
Yeah, I am, because yeah.
Well, what kind of Jeffrey always got?
I have a border collie mix. He's 12 and a tad vociferous. If somebody walks past the front door, he barks like crazy. He's a great watchdog. And then if someone comes up to the door and I open it, he runs away. So go figure. Anyway. Lisa, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing how you work, what you do, and you're fantastic. I may steal your from prison. Is it a prison or a playground? Because if you saw my thing, I work a lot with play, and I'm like, okay. I love that, and I will quote you. So this has been wonderful. Jeffrey, any last?
No,
any last things?
Great.
No?
This has been absolutely fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for listening. I'm Rona Lewis.
I'm Jeffrey Hansler.
And this has been Biz-Souls. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Biz-Souls podcast with your hosts, Rona Lewis and Jeffrey Hansler. Did you have fun? Subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It's very much appreciated. Talk to you next week.